Another brand new show to end your Monday. Welcome to The Last Word. This is it. This is where we wrap up the day of ridiculous Canadian politics. And ladies and gentlemen, it's no less ridiculous tonight because it's time for The Last Word on passports, photo ops, and expensive fantasy world travel that Mark Carney is engaging in now because he has been flying around the world. And since taking office, Carney has actually logged more air miles than any rookie prime minister in recent Canadian memory. He's been to Paris, he's been to London, Berlin, Warsaw, Mexico City, and Brussels. Each time we're told he's inked some kind of deal, a partnership or an action plan of some sort. And Liberals have been very angry with me because they want me to prove that these mean nothing. Well, the press releases do gush about deepening cooperation, advancing initiatives, and new eras of friendship. But when you peel back that glossy language, there's really nothing there. The Canada-Mexico action plan from last week was trumpeted as a comprehensive strategic partnership. But it's a laundry list of wish lists, share best practices, talk more, maybe sign a memorandum next year. There isn't even a promise to put more RCMP boots on the ground to stop fentanyl smugglers. So, Liberals, I took it upon myself to prove it. Let's go.
Welcome to Bakes on Things.
Welcome to The Last Words, brought to you by Bakes on Things. I guess that's me. I'm Chris Baker. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and of course, comment and share your thoughts down below because this just gets more ridiculous by the day, hence why we now have 2 shows a day. But the fine print of all that action planning that Mark Carney thinks he's done confirms the hollowness of it all. Its strategic pillars, prosperity, mobility, security, and sustainable development sound impressive until you read the clauses in all of these agreements, which I took it upon myself to do. Each pillar is laden with verbs like explore, promote, and identify. There are no benchmarks or budgets. A section on migration promises to increase dialogue on common policy themes. A lot there. And create working groups. Yes, that's great. But nowhere do Canada or Mexico commit to hiring more border agents or investing in infrastructure whatsoever. Even in the face of the fentanyl crisis that Donald Trump crows about all the time, the action plan offers only to monitor and to share research on synthetic drug trends. In short, the plan's lofty headings mask the absence of enforceable measures whatsoever. There's nothing in this agreement. Pierre is right. Then there's the much vaunted critical minerals pact with Germany. Let's talk about that one. See, Canada's natural resources are the envy of the world. We know this. And Germany has actually been begging us for years to sell them liquefied natural gas. And what did Mark Carney bring home from that? A joint declaration of intent that literally states in black and white that it is not legally binding and does not create any financial commitment whatsoever on either side. Wow, that's a good agreement. They're setting up a committee, though. There's going to be a committee. They'll encourage research, encourage it. In other words, the big headline at the airport was a press release about holding more meetings. Wow. That sounds very familiar because that's everything he's been doing. Because even the EU-Canada Security and Defense Partnership, which was sold to us as our answer to the AUKUS, doesn't commit us to buy a single rifle or deploy a single sailor as part of the agreement. It promises annual dialogue, consultations, and explorations. Meanwhile, our NATO allies are actually rearming, and we happen to just be repapering. If you can scan the Germany document itself, the emptiness becomes even clearer. Beneath the headline lies an actual disclaimer. Participation is subject to available appropriations and domestic laws, meaning that either side can walk away without a consequence and at a moment's notice. It pledges to encourage joint research, development, and demonstration projects. But it offers no funding, no mechanism for doing that at all, no target minerals, no timeline, nothing. Instead of committing to sell Germany actual LNG or build processing plants, both countries promise to form a task force on critical minerals cooperation to talk about it. Similarly, the EU-Canada partnership lists a dozen areas for collaboration from cyber to space, yet Every action verb is explore or enhance, and the only tangible outcome is a future dialogue on counterterrorism. That's it. That's the only tangible outcome in that whole thing. Compared to the AUKUS, which involves handing over nuclear submarine technology, our pact is little more than a cordial exchange of ideas, which we could do all over Zoom, by the way. It gets worse. In Warsaw, Carney and Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk signed another joint statement. Again, a joint statement. You can't make this up. This one reads like a Christmas wish list. Support energy collaboration, encourage defense partnerships, explore joint procurement, establish a high-level steering group of some sort. Like, do you notice the pattern here, Canada? Support, encourage, explore. There's never a verb that costs anybody anything. And remember the $9.9 million that Carney announced in Mexico? Yeah, just $9.9 million. I know he's spending less these days. That's Canadian tax dollars going to UN projects in Mexico. Mexico didn't reciprocate with any investment of their own. They just smiled for the cameras. Conservative MP Adam Chambers wasn't wrong when he called these imaginary deals, because that's what all of these are. They are page turners filled with corporate jargon and absolutely no substance. And should you be surprised when the Prime Minister is a corporate banker? These countries are laughing at us. Poland's strategic partnership is equally toothless. In the implementation section, Canada and Poland actually agree only to initiate annual bilateral consultations and to establish a high-level steering group to track unspecified mutually determined deliverables. I've worked in the corporate world. I know what steering groups are. They're absolutely nothing to nowhere. There are no budgets attached and no deadlines. Even international coverage on their news treated the signing as little more than a photo op. A Turkish news site covering the event recited that Canada and Poland will deepen ties across trade, defense, and energy security, investing in key sectors such as clean energy, including nuclear, critical minerals, defense, aviation, cybersecurity, and advanced technologies. But then they quoted Tusk and Carney celebrating friendship more so than anything else. It offered no details on what those investments will look like or when they will occur. The other agreements didn't even make news headlines in those countries because they aren't worth the paper they're written on. When the only news coverage you can find is a verbatim repeat of your press release, you know the deal is all talk and no substance, and definitely no action. While Carney poses for world leaders, the home front here is still hurting. Canada's economy, as we know, shrank 0.4% in the second quarter. Exports have fallen off a cliff. Investment is down and people are leaving, including the companies that have invested in us before. And households are tightening their belts. But Mexico, well, their economy grew by 0.6% in the same period, yet we're doing all the spending. It makes you wonder why our prime minister is spending millions and billions on junkets and promising to fix Mexico's drug crisis while Canadian families line up at food banks. We're actually in worse shape. And let's talk about the carbon hypocrisy of all of this, because you've got Mr. Net Zero there who's burning jet fuel like it's going out of style. His European networking tour with his wife in March consumed 242,250 liters of jet fuel and emitted more than 600 tons of CO2. Rebel News reports that taxpayers paid almost $300,000 for fuel alone. When a reporter asked if he would reimburse Canadians for the private sightseeing, do you remember this? He just chuckled and moved on, as he always does. He turns everything uncomfortable into a joke. This is a prime minister preaching climate virtue while leaving a contrail big enough to blot out the sun. Even his grandest foreign policy announcement has been a virtue signal at best. On the eve of the United Nations General Assembly, Carney has declared that Canada recognizes the state of Palestine. If you didn't see this morning's First Sip episode, go check it out. We talk all about it. Basically, it sounded bold until you read the fine print. The U.S. government calls it a performative gesture, but that will make negotiations much harder with them. That's just what we needed right now. Carney hadn't even spoken to Israel's prime minister before making the announcement. Did anybody know that fact? Within days, the Trump administration of the first announcement of this threatened our trade with new tariffs. Our prime minister is risking Canadian jobs for the sake of applause in New York and Davos. So, as Carney jet sets to the United Nations again this week and leaves Parliament again, ask yourself this: what's going to change here? More declarations without obligations? More committees without budgets? More meetings about meetings? More commitments to meet again? Canadians are footing the bill for a man who seems far more interested in his global brand than he does the bread and butter issues here at home. It's because he has no idea how to manage the crisis here at home. Not one idea whatsoever. And his caucus doesn't either. The next time you hear about another Carney deal, remember to read the fine print. Not legally binding, no financial commitment. It's time to actually demand more of this prime minister starting now. Really, it should have been from the start. Canadians deserve a prime minister who stays home long enough to get something actually done. Thanks for watching the very first episode of The Last Word. This is part of our now 2-episode days on 5 days a week, plus an episode Saturday morning. We are thrilled to be here. I am thrilled to be here. I'm not sure who the other person is, but I am Chris Baker. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment, and we'll catch you tomorrow morning on The First Sip.